Yvette.
All right, Rick, it says we're live.
Okay. Thank you, Brielle. And welcome, everyone. Please share this broadcast with your friends and colleagues. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I am founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. There you can learn more about We the World. Today is day 9 of 11 Days of Global Unity that goes from September 11th to the 21st, which is the UN International Day of Peace. And this is our 16th anniversary. Back in 2004, We the World brought together global partners like Amnesty International and United Religions Initiative to launch 11 Days of Global Unity. This year, 11 Days is concurrent with the Up Convergence and Peace Weekend, an extraordinary alliance of organizations, including Unity Earth, the Compassion Games, the Sign Network, We the World, and over 100 groups that represent an unprecedented unity movement, which I believe is needed now more than ever before. To learn more and participate in 11 Days of Global Unity and the 11 Campaigns for Change that go all year long, you can go to 11daysofglobalunity.org. And the 11 is a numeral, 11daysofglobalunity.org. Each year, We the World hosts the 11 Days of Global Unity TeleSummit with 11 powerful dialogues on each of the 11 campaigns for change. They are happening September 11th through the 21st, each day at 1 p.m. USA Eastern Time. Today, day 9 of 11 days is on the theme of freedom. We the World has a variety of action steps for its freedom campaign, and I'd like to give you a few examples. 3 examples, actually. Promote public financing of local and national elections, end society's usage of incarceration as a substitute for properly addressing poverty, drug addiction, and mental illness, and protect and foster freedom of expression in media, culture, and the arts worldwide. And of course, that is something that we're going to be getting into today quite a bit regarding the Freedom Film Festival. So you can learn more about the Freedom Campaign and all of the 11 campaigns for change by going to 11daysofglobalunity.org. Today we will be talking about freedom with Yvette Dubel, who has produced a Freedom Film Festival for 11 Days of Global Unity. And we will also meet some of the filmmakers whose films are part of this festival. Yvette Dubel is an engaging speaker, presenter, published author, artist, researcher, and strategy consultant with decades committed to leading social innovation initiatives. Yvette is coordinator of We the World's Campaign for Freedom and producer of Be the Change, a personal practice guide for transforming challenges into launch pads for success. Welcome to the broadcast, Yvette Dubel.
Hello, Rick. How are you today?
Good. It's so great to see you, as always.
Wonderful to see you. And this is actually Elisa, and Elisa is actually part of the team. Elisa, is it Elisa or Eliza? Am I mispronouncing your name? I wanted you to correct me.
It's Eliza, but it's okay.
Eliza, okay. I thought that because I think I do both, so I am sorry. Oh, we do have a filmmaker, Arthur came. Okay, so Eliza's actually part of the team. And so I'll let Eliza talk about what she did and what her experience was. And Arthur is one of our winning filmmakers. And he actually entered two films. One was a winner, and the other is one of our honorable mentions. So I'll let Eliza go first. Eliza, do you want to talk about your role with the We Freedom Film Festival and maybe why you got involved?
Yeah. So over the summer, I wanted to find a project to work on, and I found the Freedom Film Festival, and I just thought it was really engaging to see like how during this pandemic a bunch of like filmmakers are like getting together and creating films, and so that's why I joined the We the Film Festival, and I ended up meeting like a whole like new people from all over America, and then I ended up like meeting Yvette, who is such a good mentor, and kind of helped guide me through how to like create like a film festival and like organizing I guess the submissions and trying to like I guess advertise it. And so I was part of the social media campaign, and we created an Instagram, a Facebook, and Twitter to, I guess, reach out to filmmakers and kind of get them to submit. And then I was also like the project or team manager and kind of like helping people with questions and like, yeah. And so I thought this was like such a great opportunity, and We the World is such a great um, like organization.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Elisa. And
First, I
Yvette,
just
do you
wanted
want
to
to
like
give a
add
little
just
bit
to
of the background about, how you came up with the idea of the film festival and what freedom means to you and all of that, Yvette?
oh yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. Before I do that, though, I wanted to like just add to what Eliza was saying. Um, she was our team coordinator, and she really helped us build an actual team and like really connect on a human level, which is something I think I sort of learned from you, Rick. And I shared with her that was one of the things I was looking to, one of the areas I was looking to grow in. And so I think she did a really, really great job of being a leader in that capacity. And I do want to thank you in front of everybody because I think you were just so fabulous. And what you brought was amazing. And so I think that, well, what Eliza was saying really spoke to where this came from. And so the idea for what I brought to the Campaign for Freedom was the question of what are we doing with the freedom that we have? And what is the relationship of my freedom to your freedom? And getting people to kind of think about that, engaging other people in that question. And so with the We Freedom Film Festival, we were interested in the role of media in helping to develop a culture of we and what that requires, what that means. And when you get more voices sort of contributing to that. And Arthur's film in particular really excited me because, gosh, Arthur, you're going to talk about this in a second, but it spoke to something that I had been looking at for a long time. My my work sort of originated from this question of what is peace, and one of the things I started looking at back then was that history had been, when you look at media, how media, the role of media in creating historical narrative, and that we have documented our history based on war and conflict and all of these, oppression and all of these things. And so one of the things that excited me about Arthur's film was that I felt that that played an important role in documenting the history of peace and that we were building on a legacy. It's not something, and I think what you started, Rick, is a similar thing. It's like we have to start giving more attention to our history of peace if that's the culture that we're looking to create. So what is a culture of we? And it's coming from a place of inclusion, which I feel like is very connected to when I ask the question, what is peace? Inclusion is a big part of that. And I think that media, consumption of media is something you don't have to push against. That's something people are already doing. So that was kind of the idea of the film festival is how do we build on some existing momentum and engage people towards like this question, this direction. And I think that I think we did that. I think that we got some really interesting things that added to that conversation of what a culture of me means at different levels from different perspectives, and made it it's made it a very personal, but also creative. And so the first screening that we're having later today at 4 is going to be our winning films and the honorable mentions, and then the one this evening at 6 is going to be the one that emerged from the artist collaborations, which was building on the Be the Change playbook. And artists created performance videos from different disciplines responding to that. And that was another part of the campaign that Eliza and Jazmine, Grace, Julia, I don't know if Clement, and maybe Enrique and Sean were a part of. If I'm forgetting Haru, did I say Haru? If I'm forgetting anybody, I'm really sorry. But that was part of, like, they promoted that. Grace really took the lead with that. Grace Nako really took the lead with engaging artists and responding. So I'm really excited about what this is in terms of artists kind of like showing up to help us explore freedom and how our freedoms are connected and what the relationships are. So Arthur, would you talk a little bit about your film? Your film.
And you're muted.
There we go. Now I'm freed from the box. And that's what Gary's story is really all about, freeing us from the box. We is such a fantastic group. And not only did you send out announcements about your fabulous weekend events here, but about others at the same time that were just phenomenal as well. I've been wanting to go back and forth between all the wonderful screens. But I just heard this morning a little talk by Jean Houston, part of the Shift One, and she talked about this story of Wizard of Oz that I keep over my desk because it's not, before I get to my own film, I just want to make a quick comment about Wizard of Oz, because Wizard of Oz is really a parallel for our times. We start out in the dark, dingy, black and white, ugliness we see today, and we dream that someday over a rainbow there'll be something beautiful, and a cyclone of turmoil comes around and carts us off into this incredible, bright, beautiful looking future. But then there's all these hazards that come at us. The king of the jungle thinks he's a coward. The people who, the person who's all wrapped up in technology thinks he doesn't have a heart, what happens is, in this journey of discovery and finding the wizard, we find inside that certain freedom. And the freedom is to realize that we have inside of us the power that we were looking for all along, whether it's the heart, the brains, or the courage, or whether it's simply clicking our heels together and waking up from this nightmare we see our world into a whole freer reality. And that freer reality really is whole earth. When we leap out of our identity in these boxes that are closing us in, called nation states, and we break out of that to realize that we live on one planet and that we're the citizens who create that planet, we become the superpower that can save our world. This going on in the broken political boxes. And that's really what attracted me to Gary's story, is because he's a man who not only believed that, talked about it, he lived it. He lived for 65 years of his life as a citizen of no nation, only the entire planet. He officially gave up national citizenship. Other nations even offered him citizenship. No, I don't want any citizenship in any of the boxes. I'm a free man. And you know where he was freest? He was freest in 34 prisons and jails across the world, because he was jailed for refusing to have national documents. But he would not carry any national documents. And he lived to 93 and a half, almost 4 days short of his 94th birthday, as a free man. He won in being a citizen of the world. And he has an incredible story that's inspiring to all of us, that helps us recognize that the we in us, the whole earth, that's we, that we have the power to change our world. So this afternoon, you'll see a little short film, just 6 minutes long. It's called One, the Gary Davis story. And it tells about how he took this incredible act of courage in Paris and gave up national citizenship and sparked Camus and Sartre and Einstein and all these famous people to join him in a quest to create a united law for the planet, a rule of law instead of the rule of war, and help give birth to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This 6-minute film is a precursor to our entire film. The World is My Country. It's right here on my T-shirt. The World is My Country. We have these available, and The World is My Country is an incredible journey full of just an amazing adventure that you can see by going to theworldismycountry.com. So we're looking forward to having you join us this afternoon. I'm looking forward to being on the panel and hearing your questions, because really it's all about you. Whole Earth, we. That's the power that will change our world. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arthur. And it's so good to see you, as
Yes.
always. That was a groundbreaking film.
And Gary was a groundbreaking guy. And you talk about history, Yvette. So many people say to me, well, I never heard this history in school. I never learned about this. People don't know that there is a mighty citizens movement that helped lead to that Universal Declaration of Human Rights being passed unanimously. The entire UN said that every single one of us on this planet has rights. We have rights to travel. We have rights to freedom of speech. We have rights to all the freedoms that are, being denied to us by, police officers who kill innocent people and so on. They're violating the law. And the problem is we don't have world law to enforce it. So nations can get away with violating these treaties that they've agreed to. And the only solution is for we the people to take our place as the citizens of this world. And as Gary said, he said, if the Declaration of Independence says we the people institute new government, and if the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says the same thing, then why are we knocking our heads on the wall trying to convince these national leaders, please, please give us world peace, when they can't do it? They're on the wrong level. They're on the wrong civic level. Their loyalty is to the part, not the whole. We the people have to come together as a planet, recognize our we, take back our power, and be the hero that saves our world.
Yes. And we would say it's we the world, in fact.
We the world, exactly.
Right, because it's actually not just people, right? It's also the other life that we share on this planet that we're working for. And
absolutely.
So I see that we have
to get in touch with that.
Yeah, and
that whole species within us.
Exactly. And I noticed that there are a bunch of the filmmakers who have joined us. Please turn on your videos, otherwise you won't be seen on the live stream.
Hi there.
Just so you know.
Okay, so let's see. We have more of the team came. Okay, so Julia and Jazmine are part of the team. Hi, Julia. Hi, Jazmine. And Souvik, I saw Randy here a second ago. Maybe, oh, there's Randy. Okay,
hi,
so
how you doing?
Hi, Randy. Randy is one of our winners, and Souvik did one of our honorable mentions, I think, Dialogue. And Randy's film was Project 19. Wow, Randy, since you're driving, I'll let you go next. You're making me nervous.
I'm going to be back home shortly.
You wearing my glasses?
And I'm wearing my mom's glasses.
Oh, okay. Randy had a really cool sort of sci-fi, like a contemporary present day sci-fi sort of piece that I really, I love sci-fi. So Randy, will you talk a little bit about your film and why you decided to submit it?
Sure, yeah. So obviously me and my family, like everybody else, were, kind of in lockdown, and, kind of presented a really interesting opportunity for me and for my family, because we live in Manhattan, myself and my wife and my daughter, and we jumped ship because there was just no room to be cooped up in our apartment. So we moved in with my parents on Long Island for a little bit. And all of a sudden, I just brought a bunch of stuff with me, and a bunch of the stuff I brought with me is my camera gear and some lights. And for the first time, I didn't have to keep them all packed away. I just took over a part of the basement, much to my parents' dismay. I took it over as a studio, and having that stuff out there kind of really kept all my gear in front of my face, which was very inspiring, because usually I have to keep it tucked away in Manhattan. And immediately my daughter kind of, started kind of telling me that she missed her friends and wanted to see her friends. And, it kind of just sparked the idea, well, what if she created a time machine or a teleportation machine? And thankfully in my parents' basement, there was lots of old electronics, VCRs and my PlayStation 1, like all kinds of things that I totally will never use again. And so with my 6-year-old daughter, we started just taking part of a bunch of these pieces, the electronics apart, and took the time to and use the space to build that set, the main part of the set for the film. And then I wrote it out and we shot it. And, it was just a fun quarantine project, just something to really focus on. Because during the regular, during normal times, I'm always busy on projects. I don't really get a chance to shoot that many films. And I really kind of got into shooting to make films, but our time gets co-opted so quickly. So that's kind of how Project 19 was born.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Randy.
Thanks for having me.
Let's see, Souvik. Okay, Souvik, do you want to talk a little bit about dialogue? I mean, I don't want to say what I think. I mean, what I thought it was, but I thought it was a really interesting tribute, I guess, celebration of workers. And I think when we think about freedom, and Rick had mentioned sort of like action points around sustainable economic concepts, and certainly the issues of workers need to be a part of this conversation, right, when we're talking about freedom. Right. So can you talk, and the approach that you took, can you talk a little bit about your subject and your approach?
Right. Thanks for the intro, first of all, Yvette. So yeah, a dialogue came with this intention, to show Mumbai in a very different light, first of all. Mumbai is like the capitalist hub, the financial hub of India. And, it's a very thriving economy that has been there, like always in this city, in Mumbai. But what happens is, Mumbai is a thriving city with all of these migrant workers who come from different states of India, So all of those people, they come over to this city to, actually make a living, make a livelihood out of whatever they have. And oftentimes they come up with a very less amount of money or a very less amount of, resources. But usually they carry along the entire family and probably the tools, whatever workers' tools they have. And then they settle up in this city and then they start working. So now when they start working, they do not, all of them do not work in the best of the economic or the human conditions. There are certain issues that are there with their businesses, be that their health issues, be that their, financial securities or something like that. So yeah, there are a lot of things which are there, which could be alarming, which could be very stressful for them otherwise. But when they're working on the street, they have this particular, vigor to them. They have this particular spirit in them, which is somewhere very inspiring for me as a storyteller. And it kind of brings the spirit of the city together. And Mumbai is a city which is known for like never sleeping, right? So it's always working round the clock. It's a never ending grind, basically. So these workers, I think, make the core, make the crux of that particular, the wheel. So yeah, that was the idea, I think, basically behind this. And also the fact that the presentation that I wanted to make in this film was very raw. So whatever sounds that you hear for the soundtrack, it's all from the tools that these workers are using live from their workspaces. So if they're hitting a hammer on a nail, so that sound has been sampled into a soundtrack, and then there are certain lyrics which come out the spat, the verbal spat that these guys use. So there is a line called तुम्हारे जैसे मेरे पेट पे किसी को लात नहीं मारने का. So that means like you cannot take my my livelihood out of my circumstances or out of my situations. So that is the kind of banter, that is the kind of spats that these guys go through each and every day on the streets. And they have this particular swag, the swagger in them whenever they are working, and that spirit was what I was trying to catch. And we had actually tried to capture different pockets of the city in different lifestyles, in different workspaces. And yeah, so that's pretty much about it. The idea was just to keep it raw, and just to have that freedom of infusing art with video, sort of, and then creating something which is a very fluid kind of an experience. I hope I made sense.
Yes, yes. Um,
Sounds
well,
beautiful.
I think it's really cool. It's a really cool piece.
Thanks, Rick.
Let's see. I
And
see Julia is here.
yes, and
Julia?
before we go to Julia, I just wanted to comment.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Souvik, that you said you sampled some of the sounds.
Right.
And so did you use those sample sounds in the track? In other words, in the underlying music track? Is that the idea?
Right. That is the
Yes.
idea. And these samples are like also from vocals as well as from the instruments.
Yes.
So whatever they're saying and whatever you can hear on the tools, basically everything has been sampled into a track, and it becomes kind of a dialogue. It becomes kind of a conversation.
Right. That's great. I did that with a film. Well, you may not know this, but I've had a 35-year music career, and I wrote music for
Wow.
TV and film, and TV specials, ABC, and the Olympics, and all that. And I did. I worked on a horror film in the 1980s called Street Trash. It's become sort of a cult classic in a certain way, but that's exactly what I did. And what we did is during some of the chase scenes, the hero would be running down the street, and he knocked over a garbage can because he was being chased. And so we took the sound of the garbage can and used that as the kick drum in the music track, and
Lovely.
and different other things like that.
Wow.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So where do I get to watch it, Rick, though?
What did you say?
I'm saying, where do I get to watch it, though, Rick? The film that you're talking about? Where do you get to watch it?
Oh, I don't know if I actually recommend it. It's like a horror film.
Okay.
I just, at that point in my life, I was doing whatever I could do, as a musician and composer and everything. I'm not sure I actually like the film, but it's very edgy. You could just look it up, Street Trash.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that for sure.
So anyway, go ahead, Yvette. You're going to bring in our next filmmaker.
Well, no, she's not actually a filmmaker. She's one of our team members.
Oh, a team member. Okay,
I wanted to say that I definitely want you to comment when we watch his film later this afternoon. You'll definitely have to reflect back on that, Rick. Julia, do you want to jump in and say hi and tell us? Julia was another great part of our team, and so you want to tell us why you joined?
Can you hear me?
Ooh.
I don't know. I'm hearing something kind of weird.
Some sort of weird feedback. Oh gosh.
I don't know what that was. Oh no. I think my audio might be kind of off.
Everybody, please mute yourselves. Yeah.
Julie, the phone one is giving you feedback with your other one. You've got to turn off the phone so your video and use your video audio. When you have two devices at once, you get feedback.
So I guess this means we have to edit this part out, right?
Yeah, anytime you're on two devices, you'll get feedback unless you've linked it where you make that your only audio for your video call. There we go. Now I'll be able to hear you.
Okay, I think I figured it out. I was having Zoom open on my browser and the app, and I didn't realize that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Can everyone hear me normally now?
Good. I'm
You're
so glad
perfect.
that you
Now
were
you're perfect.
able to. Okay. So do you want to share with us a little bit about why you joined and what your experience was?
Yeah, sure. I joined this organization because I was really looking for an organization with like beliefs that I wanted to push forwards, and I really found that We the World really stood for things that I really want to advocate for. And I also was really interested in the film aspect of this volunteer opportunity. And so I jumped on it really quick because I was really interested in what this experience could hold for me. And I have been really pleased with what we have done and how we have done it. I feel like this experience has been really meaningful to me, and it's been really great to work with everybody on the team. Everyone here that I've worked with is such great people, and I feel I'm so lucky that I've gotten to work with them. And I've learned a lot about like just teamwork and just even like basic skills, but also just I've heard a lot of meaningful words from our team leader, Yvette. So I just kind of like to thank her for everything she's done as well. Um, and yeah, this has been a great experience, and I'm so proud of us for where we have gotten. So this is really exciting to see everything we've worked for over the summer kind of come together. So that's really cool. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Julia. That is so sweet. I feel the same way. I feel like I've been so lucky to work with you guys, and I've learned a lot from you all too. And we did like we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun like developing this, and in the beginning, I wondered like, are there films to be submitted like this? Like, or are we going to get any submissions? So I just want to thank you guys so much for submitting your work. And even for the people who weren't able to join us for this one. I want to thank everybody that submitted to the festival, and I hope we get more submissions next year because we'll be doing it again. And Rick, I want to thank you too for all your support, and Angel for her help and her assistance with doing this, and Jana and Brielle. Just thank you so much, and thank you, Rick, for making this possible.
Oh, sure. And it's so great. I was so happy that you kind of stepped up to lead the Freedom Campaign in general. And this idea of the Freedom Film Festival is so wonderful. You want to tell people how they can find the place where some of the screenings are taking place?
Yes, we'll be back here today at 4. It'll be on the We the World Facebook page.
Right.
Maybe Brielle, I don't know if Brielle is still here. If Brielle is here, maybe
She
you can put a
is.
link. Okay,
Yeah.
they are. Thank you, Brielle. If you could do that, that would be great. So that's the link where you can show up today and report. I'm sorry I don't have times for each individual film showing. But I mean, since all of them are pretty short, they're all less than 15 minutes. But I'm looking forward to having some conversation. So the way that I think that we'll do it is we'll show a film and we'll talk to the director and then show the next film. Because they're so short that I think within 2 hours we can easily show all 7 of the films. And have plenty of time for conversation because some of them are as short as Souvik, how long is yours? Yours is like maybe is less than 5 minutes, right? I think dialogue, I'm pretty sure is
Yes,
2
it's
minutes.
just 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So well under 5 minutes. So that's what several of them are like quite short, but I'm looking forward to talking to the filmmakers and have people asking them questions after they get to see them. And they're so different. That's the other thing that's really great is that how different they are. And so I think that really speaks to the whole we-ness of it, of bringing different voices and different perspectives in. And that was really what I was hoping for. And I'm really excited. I'm excited that we're able to do this. And I hope folks will join us and have lots of.
So I just want to give the exact link for people who
Okay.
are wondering. Yes, it's We the World's Facebook page, but that's facebook.com/the We Campaign. Just to, you could probably find it just by looking for We, but just in case, it's the facebook.com/the We Campaign. So I don't think we've heard from Jazmine yet. Do you want to bring her, Jazmine, in?
Let's see. Okay, Julia has to run. Okay, Julia, I'll talk to you soon.
I'm so sorry, but bye everyone. It was great to talk to everybody and hear the filmmakers like stories. That was really cool. So yeah. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Bye, we'll talk to you later. I don't know if Jazmine is long. Jazmine, are you there?
Yes, Jazmine is here. Jazmine is muted.
Jazmine.
Jazmine, if you can turn your video on, then we can see you.
Okay, well, Jazmine is another one of our team members. She was leading the social media team, and she is a high school senior. Julia also is a senior this year, and Eliza is a freshman, right? Are you a freshman, right, Eliza? Eliza's a freshman. So they're all dealing with school stuff. Randy is back. Okay, so all right, I guess that we can just get ready and wrap up then.
Well, I thought that maybe we can have a roundtable just about talking about media and film. You know, for me, film is a really important medium because, oh, there we go. Now Jazmine has.
Jazmine, hi,
video.
Jazmine. Oh, unmute. There you go.
Hi there. I've been hold on. My microphone and camera are acting crazy, but I'm the social media manager for the film festival. We've worked really hard to get everything together, and it's been a lot of fun. And I mean, I've watched all the films and I really enjoyed them all. It was really hard for me to choose personally, but I feel like the collaboration that we did together to like make sure that everything would run smoothly, and then working hard to like, yes, that's the correct Facebook, I believe. Yeah, I think so. And so like the things that we did to make sure that everything will run smoothly, as far as like getting the post together, making sure that we're getting the correct amount of engagement. It was a lot of work at first, and we were kind of worried that we wouldn't be able to pull it together, but everyone worked very hard and we all like pulled our weight and made sure that everything went perfectly. And we were really surprised by like how great and how many submissions we got, because it was just a really good thing that happened for us. And so I'm just really excited for everything. I can't wait to view all the films later. So yeah, that's it.
Yep. So anyway, I thought maybe we can have a roundtable just about the idea, the connection between freedom and media. You know, I think we're living in a country with, and maybe the world, but definitely in the United States, where there's a crisis in the media. People are getting their information in their own media bubbles, in a sense, and that's drawing a question about, you know, what is the truth, and it's affecting all kinds of things. It's affecting our freedom and our environment, and you know, all kinds of things. So everyone here is interested in media and filmmaking and film. As I was starting to say before, for me, film is at almost like the top of the list of importance in terms of media, because, for example, you could go to a film or watch a film that's a couple of hours long, and then you have stood in someone's footsteps or let's say in someone's shoes for 2 hours and really gotten to know someone in a different culture or a different kind of way of life, that so I feel like it's very important in that way. And of course, all of the other aspects, like I believe that the messages of the media become the fabric of our culture. So if that's true, then it's important for us all to do what I say often, which is be the media. If we don't like what we see in the media, then let's be the media ourselves, which is, I think, part of why people are excited about this Freedom Film Festival. Anyone have any comments about
Sure.
this? Yeah, go ahead,
Jump
Arthur.
in? Yeah, that is so true what you said, Rick. And Joseph Campbell said that. He studied cultures from the most ancient to the current, and he said in every society, the behavior of that society is determined more by the stories that culture says than the reality. And it's the myths that move things on. And when you look at it, the reason for the whole Trump presidency is because of the myths and stories that were told and the narratives that were put out by Fox News and so on. And so, and it had didn't matter at all whether it was at all related or connected to reality. It's the stories that rule our lives. And that's why storytelling is so important. And the other key thing that's important about storytelling and music is it has to touch the hearts. You can have all the facts and figures back and forth, but what do we remember? We don't remember those facts and figures. We remember the stories in our lives. And that's why movie making is so important. So one of the key things I tell other filmmakers, young filmmakers, when they ask me for advice, I say, read the writer's journey. It's based on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. But I think even when you're structuring a documentary, it's so important to structure it according to that hero's journey framework. And that's what we did when we were working on Gary's movie. We threw out all the things unrelated, no matter how exciting, interesting they were, and stuck to that hero's journey storyline. And that's what moves people. And those narratives can help change our world.
I don't disagree with what you said, Arthur, but I would add to that, there needs to be a call to our better selves. There needs to be more that summons that. And so that was really what I was thinking about with the festival. And those were the kind of films that we wanted to see. And I think that the filmmakers that we have here did that. They speak to our better selves. And I think that that's an important part of the narrative. When we talk about the hero's journey, the hero's journey could also be, a journey to like oppress and subjugate people. So I feel like it's really, yes, yeah, exactly. And also I felt like because Rick, to your point, a part of the crisis that we have here, certainly in the States, is at least in part fueled by lack of attention and care for workers and factoring in their success when we talk about economic success, and understanding that what success looks like for different people is different, and not to force your idea of what success looks like onto somebody else. I feel like that's a big part of what freedom is about. It's about listening and learning from other people, like what is meaningful, what matters most to them. I talk about it in terms of the success buffet, but what is meaningful to them? And that was another thing that I think that you get some insight about with the films that we're going to see later, is that there's definitely some insight into when we're talking about freedom and the future of freedom and what matters most. I think that these pieces definitely help us understand what matters most, both from what has been historic, the present, and then where we're going. So I think that whole call to the better self is a big part of it.
Definitely. Anyone else have any thoughts to share?
Yeah, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
I think you all have some really interesting points, and I don't know. I think I've been a lifelong filmmaker, so in no way do I mean this in a disparaging way, but I think that being a filmmaker is kind of like the new typewriter or the new pencil, the new printing press. it's just kind of the extension of that voice. It's just the new medium, and because the tools are so much more available than they've ever been on your phone, you just have that power that is the same way that it is just basically communicating those ideas. And, interestingly enough, it's just always funny to me how, on your cell phone these days, you have more production capabilities than the major four networks did in the 90s, or even the 2000s. And when you go back and look at the Olympics during that time or sporting events, I mean, it's just crazy how much production we have in our pocket these days. Anyway, that being said, I think we live in a really auspicious time because of the political environment that we live in. And kind of, I think that, events like this are kind of important because I think that critical thinking is more important than ever, and critical thinking teamed up with critical curation is going to be really important, because as more and more people have these tools, and by more and more, I mean almost everybody has a tool to be a filmmaker these days, or at least to shoot video and to edit it, we're kind of just heading more and more into times where we need to understand more of what we're watching and how we can think about what we're watching and how we understand the context in which what we're watching. Because, the filmmaking in and of itself, to me, once again, I don't mean to disparage it because I have dedicated my life to it, but it's not as important, your abilities, the ability to do that as much as it, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to put forth. Obviously, when you look at, films side by side and try to judge them one against another, kind of people's skill in using those is obviously really important. But the filmmaking process has kind of become more easy than ever. And I think that, the problem that we're having in the media is really just that there's just so much and so many voices that, for some people, they wind up being caught in these echo chambers of thought where they just find people's opinions that reinforce what they're looking to hear. And for other people, other consumers, they're just turned off by the whole thing and they don't know what to think and they don't have time because they're too busy trying to make ends meet, so it's a really kind of weird position that we find ourselves in, I think, historically. And as filmmakers, I don't know what to say particularly, aside from just, make the things you like and hopefully they find audiences and people will appreciate them in the different ways and to hone your craft and all that kind of stuff. But I think, both of these things kind of very interesting when it comes to our particular landscape right now, and even more the explosive landscape that we are, last night precipitated, unfortunately, rest in peace, RBG, and kind of what is in store for us at the end of this year, and I just hope that, I don't know what it's going to be. I, as a human on Earth right now, I'm just hoping that something can happen, or some kind of seismic shift in our collective consciousness can happen, where we can start to be more unified in general. It just feels like there's just so much division on all sides, and that to me, regardless of what you're trying to say, regardless of what your film is, regardless of what your political views are, it's just there needs to be something that kind of unifies us more as humans. So we're just it seems like on both sides of the political spectrum, we're more, kind of sensitive and hunkered down and disparaging of other people's beliefs. And it's that's not going to get us to where we need to be. Sorry if I don't know how I got into this whole,
that's great. And what you're talking about is actually one of the main goals of We the World, which is to create a we culture, or we-based society and culture where the priority is the common good, and where the health and well-being of each member of society is considered essential to the health and well-being of the whole of society. You know what I mean? And I think the COVID pandemic is a great place to, or it's teaching that lesson. That lesson is hitting the headlines, basically. The question is, can we apply it to all the other aspects of our society and culture? The idea, if one person has COVID in a community, then everybody understands that the whole community is in jeopardy. But how about if one person is homeless in a community? Will the community think the same way? Or if one person has no access to health care or is discriminated against, whatever. That's the extension. That's the concept between the concept of a we-based society. So, and another thing that you said that I liked that you were touching on was this idea of media literacy and understanding what, when people watch media, wherever it is, understanding what it goes into making that media, who benefits from it, and how is it constructed in order to benefit certain people, and all of that aspect of it, I think, is important for people to understand, who aren't necessarily media people, but just people who watch the media. It's one of the things I would love. I mean, there's a million things we want to do, but one of them is a media literacy campaign. And of course, there's more to talk about with that. But yeah, Arthur, you were raising your hand.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to hear from Jazmine and Elisa
Oh,
and Souvik.
If someone wants to jump in who hasn't spoken yet, let them go first. If not, I'll go ahead. Nobody else? Okay. I just want to say that's so right that we need media literacy. And Yvette was so right when she said that the hero's journey has been used for oppression. In fact, David Corton said that the power of empire is maintained not as much by the bombs and guns it has as by its controlling our stories, our dominant stories. And actually, the CIA had various key people in the CIA took positions and heads of studios to help create a narrative that, we have to fight the blacks, the poor, and that the hero is this white hero who has the most guns, and that whole narrative that has been repeated has dominated our society. And we need this new narrative coming from the bottom up, coming from the diverse voices, coming from the we. And it's that new narrative that can emerge and can really have even more power than all the guns and bombs to bring down empires. I mean, I met with when the Soviet Union crumbled, the first state to break away was Lithuania, which is where my roots go back. And I met with the founding president of Lithuania, who told us that when they brought down the Soviet Empire, it was because they were singing songs of freedom. They had a singing revolution, and it was telling this basically the story through song of their people, and it made it hard for the tank drivers to crush them. And we've seen that around the world, that the power of story and song and music is so crucial. It was a crucial part of the civil rights movement. It's a crucial part of changing our world.
Yeah.
Rick, I wanted to comment on what Randy said, or not so much comment on, but Randy, your film in particular, when you were talking about how we use the tools, and it reminded me of in your piece, the mom character can't really conceive of what the daughter is about to is doing with the phone, and what she can see possibility in that technology that the adults
that's my
can't
wife. Sorry.
see. And she
Continue.
brings this. Oh, your wife. Okay, that was your wife. Okay.
My mom is in there too. It was everybody in my quarantine.
When she the grandmother is actually your mother.
That's my mom. Yeah.
The grandmother.
So you had a quarantine cast, right? A quarantine
full
cast.
Quarantine. But continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your question.
You're fine. No, but I thought that it was interesting, the innocence and the heart that she brings to the technology. You were talking about how we use the tools, and I felt like that was interesting that you made that comment, considering I felt that that's kind of what your film was about. The child having this innocence and this heart and this it's love that guides her. It's love that guides how she uses that phone, how she puts that technology together. And I think that really sort of speaks to what we have to be teaching, for like the next generation. Because a lot of the potential of whether or not a we culture is possible is going to depend on what the kids, what the kids, how they embrace it. And that was part of why I was really excited and honored to have a chance to work with these young folks. And because I was their age when I got involved in social activism. And I just really think that innocence, because I feel like, at least for me, I see my cynicism, and we have to look and be inspired by the innocence and the hope of children and young people, because they can see possibilities, I think, in some things that we can't, because we can only see what's been. So just, I thought that was an interesting comment that you made, because I thought that your film sort of spoke to that. And I wonder if that was intentional, or was that just, did I just read that in and project that onto you?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, that's interesting that you picked up on that. I mean, it was intentional and it was unintentional. I mean, frankly, it came from, the idea of the film came from my daughter's desire to want to go see her friends. And it was the creative problem solving of, okay, how would she do that if she were some super genius and could figure out how to do it on her own, regardless of whether we would want to take her or not? Because obviously we could just drive her in a car. So it was in there, but I didn't think about it in that way. But I'm glad you picked up on that, because I think that it's definitely interesting to think about the kind of innocence of children and what it is that their desires are, and they are almost solely motivated by, I don't know, I mean, love and hedonism of some sort. I mean, and you know what, it's interesting because it brings me to a kind of a rather cynical question that I have, actually, that I just would like to pose, because I've been living in New York City for 20 years. So I'm just going to put that on the table just to qualify my question a little bit. But like, we're obviously in a position in history with very tumultuous times. I mean, we have you know, huge inequities, large portions of the population that are not being catered to, and you know, many other problems, political problems, social problems, so many issues. And we're a large country and we have a lot of problems. And I think about this a lot, as I'm sure most people do. And I guess my question to everybody here is there a precedent set anywhere in the world now, or frankly, anywhere in human history, where people do get along? Because as a lifelong nature show lover, I just don't know that getting along is in the human animal as it is within any animal. And that's, you know, kind of more of a question and something I want to explore more in my work and also just in my life, because I think that there's a lot of talk as humans to how do we get along better? How do we fix all these problems? How do we make things more equal? But like, I don't know that I've ever seen any natural or human historical precedent where that has been around for a while, or that has actually lasted. Not that that is not right or something that we need to aspire to, because that is a very beautiful idealistic version that I think would be great. But I feel like in a way, are we fitting in a square peg in a round hole because we are these vicious animals? I mean, look around at at humanity and how we've treated each other since the dawn of man. And it's not like we are original in that. Nature is based on competition and survival of the fittest, destruction of competition for the rights to breed and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want to be the cynical guy, because I'm pretty fun-loving kind of person and I believe in positivity and things like that. But I'm at a point now where I look around and I'm like, what are we trying to do here? You know, is this some ideal that we could ever live up to? Or is this just something we're just setting ourselves up to fail? Because has this ever even happened? Is it even possible, given the fact that we are really animals? You know, it's like we're all just like apes with nuclear weapons. So what? It's just lucky that we haven't destroyed ourselves thus far.
Right. So I definitely have a comment on that, and then I definitely want to hear other
So do I.
folks. So very important for you to know, Randy, and maybe others, that the scientific community is coming around to leave this idea, the Darwinian and social Darwinianism and all of that, in the dustbin of history. If you look up David Sloan Wilson, and there are a group of scientists who are coming around to the idea that the species that are the best at cooperation is what makes them survive, as opposed to competition. So that is an important basis for, you know, possibly hope in terms of what you're saying. And the other thing I would say is that I don't know what the exact number is, but probably 98 or 99% of what happens with human beings is peaceful. It's just that there are, you know, what we get our attention, you know, focused on is, you know, what hits the media. You know, if it bleeds, it leads. It doesn't necessarily mean that most of human activity is raucous and violent. It's just, it's like when you stub your toe. This is the analogy, I think. You know, when I stub my toe, my focus is on that toe, and I'm forgetting about my heart is working great, and my lungs are working great, and the circulatory system, all this other stuff is all fabulous in my body, but I'm focused on that toe because it took my attention away. But I think that's, I mean, you know, so maybe I'm more of in thinking positively than others, but that's how I look at it, and I think there are times when there have been cultures that are more explicitly, you know, cooperative, indigenous cultures, even though there's wars sometimes between tribes and indigenous cultures, but within the cultures, there are cultures of cooperation that I think have happened, you know, probably in the majority of human existence. But
I mean, that's to be seen. Have you ever read *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari?
Nope.
Read it. It's absolutely insane. And he talks about the history of the human animal, basically. I mean,
Sure.
but it's like, there's many books on, you know, I mean,
sure,
indigenous cultures have been extremely violent. There's no culture that has not been extremely violent.
That's
one of
true.
the most violent cultures around has been Native Americans. I mean, and it's not cooperate. I agree with what you're saying in terms of cooperation between people within a certain area, but it's like, you know, it's the, you know, ants for sure. It's a great example. So ants live in community, they thrive because millions of them live together with one particular goal, but, you know, they fight like hell with other ants, you know, and
right.
they're brutal and, you know, I don't know.
Sure.
I'm not a total, you know, I mean, it's up in the air. I would like to think honestly that that it can all work out like that. Sometimes I just question what's the major picture here? What are we really contending against in terms of your own nature? You know, it's like somebody that is genetically predisposed to being heavier, you know, looks at somebody who's genetically predisposed to being thin. It's like, you can't live your entire life, you know, coveting that, because it's just written, you know. And it's like, there are ways, but the amount of suffering, I don't know, is the answer. You know, and I would like to be hopeful about the whole thing. I just, you know, it's something I think about a lot recently.
Yeah. Have you read the book, I think there are a few of them, but by Daniel Quinn, Ishmael? And Daniel Quinn places it 10,000 years ago with the discovery of agriculture.
Yes,
that
property
was and he says that before that, humanity for hundreds of thousands of years, things were much more peaceful. But once people, you know, when there were hunters and gatherers, you know, wandering around, things were much more peaceful. But then when people started settling down in certain places and beginning to reap surpluses and then protecting those surpluses, that's when things like war started and all of that. Anyway,
I just don't believe that. I just don't necessarily believe it, honestly, because you look at bears, you know what I'm saying? I mean, no judgment to bears, because bears, as far as we know, they're not racist, they're not misogynist or whatever. But, you know, a male bear will come in and it will kill the young of a female to put her in heat. And then, you know, it's like, it's nature. It's written right there. You see it all the time, and that's messed up. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, the pyramids of Egypt built by slavery, like all of these huge accomplishments. I mean, people are vicious and brutal and fucked up. Sorry, but it's just true. And it's like, I would like to think that we could be better selves. And I think probably in general, we are in the best time ever to be alive, because, you know, there's more equality than ever, you know, because I mean, even 100 years ago in the United States, you know, I mean, insanity. things absolutely insane. You know, you go to the Wild West, you pull somebody out of a saloon and shoot them right there, and then on your merry way to your, you know, whatever kind of like, whatever you're digging for gold or whatever you were doing at that particular point, you know. But
I get it. Arthur, you wanted to say something.
I think you make a very good point, Randy, and it is true that there's just incredible violence through history, and there's a rise of the human spirit where we're now connecting with others. Yes, there are many examples in history with like the chalice and the blade talking about nonviolent past. Darwin mentioned love 95 times and survival of the fittest only once, but the narrative we tell is only on the survival of the fittest. We forget the other part of the story, that's cooperation is what built society, made it possible. But at the same time, there's an evolution taking place where we can leap from the old to the new, where we're beginning to interconnect into kind of a global brain, a global network through the web of bringing out the highest and best in each person. And all of us have that dark and that side of the light, and that light, I think, is rising. I think all the things that are happening, all the turmoil, in a way, is part of the rise of the human spirit, where the highest and best is in people, where we now do empathize with others, where we care about others, and we're at a time in history we might have, through all the trauma, not been able to care about others. As we arise from that trauma and begin to emerge, there was a great film we watched last night about the prison within, about how when you connect even with people in the deepest trauma of prison, you can find that humanity in and you can rise. And all across YouTube, we see animals of species that usually eat each other, coming together peacefully with each other. And I think there's a new spirit arising and that we can be a part of that. And that, yes, we have to recognize that darkness, but we can help draw it into the simultaneous ocean of light.
Jazmine, did you want to say something?
I did. So I started an internship with the State's Assemblywoman here in my district where I live. And I was able to talk to different people and kind of get their opinions on things that are happening given the current climate. And something that I noticed is that a lot of people that I was talking to, they were like, I don't want to like give people who are homeless like opportunity for more housing and like in my district, because like I don't want to like create like a bad environment for where I live. And I feel like it's this kind of like I mentality that like makes people not really care about others. They like, I don't want to give someone, for example, healthcare because I don't want to raise my taxes. If it makes my life more difficult, then I don't want to help people. And I mean, when I think about the individualism of that kind of concept, I mean, it was kind of ingrained into our history, especially in America. Like that whole idea of making the pursuit of happiness for man and for that one person. So everyone wants to pursue their dreams in their own way, but at the same time, they have little to no regard for the people out there who are struggling and who have issues of their own. And so I feel like maybe if we can like get away from that whole concept as not just as like a world, but as a country specifically, maybe we can move towards change. But like until then, like we're always going to be thinking about like what's better for us, what's better for ourselves. And maybe because I'm young and like I don't have to pay bills, like I don't know about taxes and that kind of stuff, like I kind of find it to be like ridiculous that you don't want to help a person that's homeless. Like it's only like a couple $100s extra for you, and this person will be able to have a life and an opportunity and a place to live at night. And I mean, maybe because I don't have a job and I don't deal with that kind of stuff, I don't really see it that way. But people who do, they're like, oh, I don't want to have to pay extra money. Like I work hard for my money and I deserve the right to do whatever I want with my money, and I don't want to help a random person who's probably just going to misuse the system. And I mean, I just kind of feel like that pessimism of believing that all people who are in bad situations are going to use the help that we give them for something negative, that's kind of the reason why we're not going anywhere. And I mean, especially in California where I live, the homeless crisis is horrible. And we really need to fix it, because even if you live in a beautiful neighborhood, like I live in a really nice neighborhood in Orange County, and there's homeless people all over the street. So I don't care if you live in a $3 to $4 million house. If there's a homeless person on the sidewalk in front of your house, what does that say about your neighborhood? And I feel like that's the kind of things that we need to address. And I feel like people in their mentality of only caring about themselves, that's the reason why they don't want to address it. So.
Randy, I wanted to add to what
Thank you, Jazmine.
Thank you, Jazmine. I love the passion with which you said that. So I was thinking like, when you look at it from more of a systems perspective, my sort of the conclusion I came to was that nature is a system of inclusion because nothing is excluded. And I felt like what you're speaking to is how different components, you sort of like microsystems within a larger system are operating. But if you look at maybe if we looked at humanity as a whole, as a system within another system, and we saw ourselves more in that relationship, I think the opportunities that we see become different. And I think those challenges could become opportunities. So I don't necessarily see, and the other thing is that, sorry, my dogs are barking, is that we, at least at this point, I feel that there are a growing number of people who see that our evolution doesn't have to it's not out of our hands, that we can consciously choose how we are evolving and changing as a society and as individuals, and how that impacts the system. And so since you're a filmmaker, I was thinking about changing the lens. So maybe just need to swap out the lens for a systems view.
That's a cool concept. Swap out the lens. How are we looking at the situation that we're living in? Good point.
You know, it's interesting that you say swap out the lens, because sorry, I just want to make sure I get this right. Your eye, ocular, from my understanding, is in ancient Greek, the word oculus, ocular, those kind of the idea of optic nerve, like that, all that root comes from the word in ancient Greek, if I'm not mistaken, as projector. Not something that takes things in, but something that projects, which is really interesting, because we see that our eyes as something that takes in information, but really we're projecting what we think on the subjects that we see. So yes, from an optical standpoint, yes, light is shining on our optic nerves and retinas and things like that. But really, it's kind of like a projection device. We look around and we see the things, you know. So yeah, you know, it's interesting. One thing I just kind of wanted to say that, you know, I just kind of had this like real quick thought about when we're talking about young people, because I see some young people on here, and I think that, you know, what Jazmine was saying was super valid. And I think that even just the idea of seeing these things and just noticing them is super important. But I also think that, like, those of us that are older on this call, you know, it's like, there's a part of me that when I hear somebody say, like, the young people, you know, it's like, the young people are into this, and it's like they, you know, I'm looking forward to a brighter future and all that kind of stuff. It feels a little bit to me when I hear that kind of stuff like passing the buck, you know? And it's like, yeah, I feel like people were saying that when I was younger too, and when my parents were younger and all that stuff. It's like, you know, I remember the We Are the World. Who's old enough here remember We Are the World? I believe that children are our future, teach them well and let them lead the way. Well, you know, I mean, maybe we're a little bit better than we were back then, but like, you know, it's not like my generation created some huge revolution that's like doing so amazingly right now, you know? And I think that, you know, this kind of plays into the filmmaking side too, which is, you know, we say a lot of things with our films, we say a lot of things with our voices, but it's like, you know, there's also a lot of passing of the buck that happens under the veil of like trying to do better, you know, which I think is like, makes us feel better. Like, hey, I'm not out there every day, like bringing a homeless person into my house, helping them take a shower, and helping them get onto a better path, you know, and maybe it's kind of like that, more of like the direct responsibility, like, what are you doing right this second, right now? Not like, you know, are we training people to do this? I don't know. It was just kind of like, in hearing that, I was like, something felt like, you know, within the best intentions, you know, to be a little bit disingenuous. Because in a way, the best, you know, it's like, one of the interesting film kind of rules that I remember that always kind of pops up for me is the idea of writing a good villain. And I'm sure those of you that have been in the film world for a long time, you've heard this before. For those of you that are younger, haven't. But, you know, you're never supposed to write a villain negatively, like that hoo-hoo ha-ha kind of villain, because that's not realistic. The reality is that Hitler did not think he was a villain. Hitler thought he was a hero. And that's interesting. Trump, whether you like him or not, I don't like him, he thinks he's a hero, you know, and that's really scary. It's scary to think that Hitler thought that ethnic cleansing was the key to creating the master race, you know, but that makes him that much more scary. So I don't know. I just kind of went off on a tangent here, but it's like, I feel like it all kind of ties into what we're talking about.
No, I mean, I think that's relevant. I'll share a little bit about why I thought this was an important project. My background, Randy, is actually not in film or entertainment. My background is obviously art and community development. And I think one of the reasons I needed to do this is community development. You are pushing against political systems to and when I was Jazmine's age, I started out thinking that people were in these jobs and in these agencies because they cared. And my experience in community development showed me something way different. And in order to keep hope alive, to keep doing the work, we need these kinds of things. And so instead of just sort of falling back, and I was talking to another friend of mine who's a consultant and a business coach, and we were talking about how when you have those points of, we kept saying, like, I can't imagine it could get any worse. And then it did. And she was sharing with me that she had been in bed for 2 weeks. Like, she just was feeling very hopeless. And so we were talking about that. And it's like, we create these kinds of things because we need, how do you fill yourself back up when you put everything out? You give it all to try and make some sort of change. And the system is still what the system is. And so one of the reasons I felt that this was important is it was a stepping stone for citizen-led action. Instead of keep continuing to wait for, or really speaking to the young people that I was working with, this is one of the things we would talk about in our team meetings, was instead of waiting for the system to change, instead of waiting for them to see and value what you value, we need to be moving that along. And however, whatever space you can find in your life that you can move it along, then that's what we have to do. And I happen to I live in North Carolina, and this is a Trump state. And it is a weird thing to live in a place where you feel that, or it seems that a majority of the people around me maybe don't think that slavery ever should have ended, but yet we all have to get along. We have to find some way to coexist. And it's like how these kinds of things, and I think one of the roles of media is in part to help keep us inspired, to help us find hope when we're looking for it. And that was certainly what I was looking for. I needed to feel and to know that everybody is not what you see reflected in the media or what I might deal with, when I have to go to, some sort of meeting or something, that is still not the world. And working with these people is what reminds me of that. It reminds me that not to paint the world with such a broad brush, and to keep an open heart and an open mind, and to look for those opportunities when they present themselves. Because we had our first meeting right after John Lewis had died. And so we watched his Morgan Freeman reading his letter. And that was how we started our first meeting. And so we set the intention that we were planting a seed for something that we intend and hope to see grow. And that was one of the reasons that we had the artist collaborations as a sort of side venture with this, to engage artists in this conversation. So we were looking to start a conversation that we hope will keep going. And I think that we can't undervalue the importance of what our hearts need to keep going and not to give up, because we take a lot of battering with everything that's going on day to day. And so, not to negate what you're saying, but we also have to look at how we find hope. How do we keep moving forward in what feels like a positive direction, rather than just succumbing to the evils of the world?
Yeah, thank you, Yvette. And I don't know if we heard from Souvik. Do you want to turn your video on, Souvik? And if you have any comments, I don't think we heard from you. And Elisa and Eliza, I don't know if we heard from you either. Just in this conversation, then we can wrap it up. We have to kind of finish in the next 5 minutes anyway. Souvik, any comments about what we've all been talking about?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to comment on a few things over there. First of all, regarding the cooperation bit that you guys were talking about, I just wanted to get to this. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out this thing that sometimes I think cooperation brings out that kind of an antithesis, which creates a kind of resistance and a kind of like non-cooperation kind of a narrative. And those things have always enabled better artists and better activists in our society. Like if you see that in the context of India, we have Gandhi, whose entire career is based on non-cooperative movements, right? And right now in India as well, there are this thing, the political unrest is like very charged, and the entire scenario is very polarized right now. So the students are in protest for some against some draconian laws and some police brutalities and all of those stuffs, right? So poetry, music, and sometimes films like music videos and stuff, that has been the weapon of resistance as well, other than popular activist politics on the side. So that is one thing that I just wanted to add, is that it's not just about creating those echo chambers, it's not just about creating those bubbles, but it's also mainstream when you have like big mainstream this thing, violence and everything happening on one side. You also have a charged antithesis on the other side, and sometimes that is good, that is better for the entire society. Just that.
Well, thank you, Souvik. And Eliza, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that since I guess as technology evolves, there's like more opportunities for people to create media from like YouTube or just like creating their own films. And with the big amount of like people creating like their own media, it's like hard to filter out which ones is like good or what's bad. And so I guess this was like what Randy was talking about in the very beginning of the discussion, how people have to kind of like think clearly about what they want to watch and just like not believe everything they see in a way. And so I thought that I just want to thank Yvette so much for like creating this Freedom Film Festival and like getting a group of like students from like high school to college and kind of like just building a team so all of us could create this Freedom Film Festival and showcase like these amazing films that, and it's so great to see like what we've been working for like a couple of months and actually like having it all come together with these panelists or just screenings. And it's nice to see like a familiar face of like after watching your videos and just like being able to like talk to the filmmakers and ask them like their experiences. And I do feel like that they're like I guess certain generation, like our generation is like creating, I guess, a change. But I guess we just need to work on it more. And like in the future, hopefully things will like, people will become more of like a community and have like the we mindset. And so I just think that this film festival was a great opportunity to like showcase filmmakers and their films.
That's great. Thank you. So I just have a couple of announcements and then we'll come back for our little closing. So people can check the schedule of what's going on by going to 11daysofglobalunity.org. And there you will see a link to the 11 Days Trello board, which pretty much has every program and event listed. And you can watch previous dialogues like the historic summit on the future of humanity with Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Vandana Shiva, where Desmond Tutu speaks his mind about the protests that followed the killing of George Floyd, truth and reconciliation, the climate crisis, the pandemic, and what he feels is needed at this perilous moment in our world. You can see this and other dialogues by going to We the World's Facebook page, facebook.com/thewecampaign, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wetheworld.org. And remember, participating, or let's say transforming society, is not a spectator sport. So collaboration is key, and we encourage you to go to we.net/partner. And there you can sign up as an individual and join the We team, or as an organization and collaborate on one or more of these campaigns. And of course, we.net has a lot of information there. And the last thing I just wanted to say is that I think today we have accomplished the 3 goals that we have for all of our events, which are to inspire, inform, and involve. 3 I's that make a we. So, and of course, we're talking about going from a me society to a we society. So just want to thank Yvette so much for putting this all together, and all of you who've been part of the team and part of the, and submitted your films. And let's go forward and collaborate and help to make this a we-based society. So thank you. Did you want to say something, Arthur?
Yes, I just wanted to mention to the young people, they can submit their films to the UN 75 Peace in the Streets Film Festival. It's just for young people. And it's going to be, I think, December 15th or so. I don't remember the exact date, but I'll put the email right in the chat box for Carol Kretschmann, who's organized it. If you're a young person wanting to make a film about peace, submit it, contact Carol, and she'll tell you all about it. It's in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Arthur, and thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop our live stream now. Bye-bye.